step up to the podium. Commissioner.
Glad you guys are here. We're going to practice a little bit. 7, 10-year, 20-year risk. Vice President Johnson, Public Service Commissioner Johnson brought up a good point. We have a pesky thing called the law, but at some point I have to turn to my fellow legislators who I've served with and say, maybe we need to change some laws. Let's practice that. So I get a phone call. I have 10 million tons of coal ash at Colstrip. DEQ is going to bury it in a hole for 300 million. It's going to take 10 years. Trust me when I tell you, by the time it's done, it's going to be 400 million. Risk management. In 10 or 20 years, if I have to dig it up because the liner is leaking, trust me when I tell you it'll be $1 billion. So what can we do with coal ash? Well, we borrow money from China. They charge us interest and we buy shiploads of coal ash to put in our concrete. You've got to be kidding me. Why don't we buy that from Montana? Have it processed into fly ash to put in concrete so I don't have to bury it in Montana and worry about risk management later. Well, the problem is, folks, is that, and Brad says, and he's correct, we can't manage economic development. But why not? Why can't I go to the legislature and say, I want you to change the law to let me regulate coal ash. Then I'm going to process it, create about 100 jobs. DEQ's job is environment and quality. Trust me when I tell you the environment and quality will be better if I ship that coal ash out of Montana, creating jobs, than burying it again and worrying about it later. I'm responsible, and I've told my constituents, okay, Representative Bob Phelan is in my district, that I'm going to look out for the future. If we have to dig this up in 20 years, it could fall on the ratepayer. All right? I want to protect them from that. So let's create the jobs and ship it out. So let me ask you guys something. Wouldn't it be sensible to strengthen the US dollar instead of buying coal ash or putting concrete from China, creating these jobs in Montana while protecting Montana from having to deal with this in 20 years, to have the legislature give the Public Service Commission the authority? And I bet with all your experience on this panel, there has to be ideas that you have to ask your legislature to change some laws so you can manage risk management better. All right. But let's talk about the power lines. We all know capacity is a big deal. And I heard Commissioner Johnson say, 10 or 20% more capacity. High efficiency lines and reconductoring isn't 10 or 20%. It's 100% increase. I can double the capacity of any power line. And why shouldn't I do that now, even if I don't need it? I'll tell you why. I cut the line loss by 1/3. My power line between Great Falls and Monarch is a savings of $440,000 a year, that one line. And I cut the fire risk of starting fires by half. We now have fiber optics running in the center of a power line where I can recognize a problem or a hot spot before the line breaks, and we can go exactly to that area and find the problem. Should we introduce legislation that says all power lines should be upgraded to the high efficiency power lines when we're installing a new power line or replacing a power line? Should I ask the legislature for that? Because I can't really get the power company to do it. They're not that excited about it. I know my electric vehicles are going to have a huge demand for electricity. We have 2,500 of them now. Every single car manufacturer is going to have electric cars available. They're going to stop production of the Dodge Challenger next year, and the only one you'll be able to get is electric. Shouldn't I start planning by putting these power lines in now? And if I can't depend on the power company to do it, should I turn to the legislature? What are your thoughts on these ideas? Thank you.
Thanks, Commissioner. Any of the three of you, please. Yeah, Chris?
I'll take a shot at responding on the idea of advanced conductors. I personally don't think that it's necessary for the statutes of Wyoming or any other state to specify the use of a particular type of conductor. But what I do expect is that during the planning process or during the contested case process that is associated with any big construction project, when the utility asks for a certificate of public convenience and necessity to construct new facilities or do major rework, that our process will explore all reasonable technologies and approaches to these projects, and that the best one that's available at that time will end up being selected to do it. And if the utility hasn't planned it, they haven't done a good job planning, and they haven't maximized the usefulness of those rights of ways and those structures and the investment in the transmission, then either an intervening party or our staff or our commissioners will hopefully flush that out. And that fact that that hasn't been done will become clear, and we will end up with a project that's approved, including the smartest way to do it. That comes along with watching out for the ratepayers' pocketbook.
Thank you. Yeah. Eric?
Well, it seems to me that if the rush to decarbonize under that layer of conversation you have, when you talk about that, it's not just going to new generation. It seems to me that if you, and I don't know, I don't know about going to legislature. That's a tough. I haven't given any consideration to this until I just heard it today. However, I think that if you wish to decarbonize, it costs a lot of money to build wires. It costs a lot of money to build solar panels. It's a tremendous amount of carbons involved in all of those constructions. So maybe what we should do, if you want to decarbonize the country, maybe it is transmission lines first. Maybe you should eliminate line loss. It costs a lot of money for line loss. It's not just the new generation you're building. You're losing all that power. What's the benefit? If you can save that, and I don't know enough about this to really delve into it deeply, but I think that prior to me going to the legislature, I probably would contact my Office of Energy and see what the flavor was with the executive branch and see if there's a movement that could be done. I don't necessarily want to legislate power design. Because I think that's what's happening right now in DC. And I don't think it's healthy. I think it's created a mix mash of we're going to get there and we're going to get there fast. I don't care what happens on the way. We're just going to get there. But we're losing sight of all of the other things under the road. There's things that can be done that are probably more beneficial than I mean, we have a brand new 2,500 megawatt solar farm that's going in Idaho. And there's brand new transmission going down through Nevada for that. If there's this new way to reconductor those lines, why don't we do that? Why are we using the old system? I don't know. If you can avoid line loss, you're saving everybody money. The one thing I do think that concerns me about the prior question, though, I don't want to build transmission and we get caught into a stranded cost issue. You know, you can find new resources. Excuse me. And then you can strand costs with new transmission that you don't need.
Just real quickly, you know.
It chokes me up. Sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought you were done.
I am done.
Yeah.
I apologize. I'm done.
Anything else? Brad, you get the last word, I think.
Well, I think in keeping with earlier comments about commissions not wanting to be policymakers and not wanting to be utility managers. One of the reasons that we made it a point to include a panel with state energy offices was precisely to explore how they in fact could play a more active role in terms of interfacing with the policymakers in the legislature and the utilities. I think they have a far greater latitude to engage in conversations with those two entities than the commission does. And I hope that's an approach that will be explored later today as we get into that conversation.
Thank you. And that is a nice segue to this afternoon. With that, ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking the panel for their time and